So now that I've got a VPN, I have access to YouTube and Facebook. And with that, I get access to a lot of the sort of current events and social debates that are ongoing in Western society. And I do think these are the particular issues I'm talking about are predominantly um, Western debates. At least they seem to be a lot more vocal, prominent in the West. It's not to say that they're not relevant elsewhere, but I think they're more prominent in the West. It's a mixed blessing having a VPN because it's great to keep in touch with my family and friends, but sometimes I get, I came to the other side of the world for an experience, and I've certainly had that. But then seeing the same old identity politics stuff gets tiresome. Nevertheless, I feel there are a few talking points around this. So, Sky News had a debate a few days ago, and it was followed up on Good Morning Britain. And the debate was between Dr. Adrian Harrop and Mrs. Kellie Jay Keen-Minshull. I'm saying Mrs. there because she was a bit funny about that. But anyway, basically the issue is this. Um, Kellie Jay Keen-Minshull had organized for, she's a feminist activist, and Dr. Adrian Harp is a transgender activist. Now, she had organized for a billboard in Liverpool to display the dictionary definition of woman: woman, women, noun, adult, human, female. Right, that's what it is. That is the dictionary definition of woman and women. Now, this transgender activist had campaigned for this to be removed as he argued it was hate speech. Well, you could see that the fireworks were going to fly. The debate, the confrontation was not heated. They weren't yelling at each other, but there was clearly real tension there, and there was no love lost between these two. They clearly had a lot of dislike for one another and very different views on things. Um, Now, what the feminist activist was saying was that she feels that because women are under attack in terms of their identity from what she sees as transgender infiltration of the feminist movement, or that's what I gathered. She feels it was necessary to remind people of what is the definition of a woman. He was saying that there's not an issue with the definition, but that was intended to cause intimidation to transgender people. I've given this a bit of thought, and I've sort of mixed views on it. The way I responded to the video, and I'm going to reiterate, excuse me, reiterate that here, is that I see absolutely nothing wrong with the definition that she has laid forward. Um, I make no secret of the fact that I'm not a fan of third wave feminism. I find it to be aggressive. I find it to be pretty misandric. Very often, I find it to be hypocritical. I don't like it. Having said that, when it comes to something as basic as the definition of a woman, I do agree with Kellie Jay Keen-Minshull. There's not many areas I agree with Western third wave feminists, but that is one of them. It's just common sense. It's just scientific fact. And I do think that the transgender community has been using some rather bullying tactics in recent years to get what they want. Now, in terms of this being a hate speech, I don't know how you can rationally read it as such. Dr. Harrop claims that he's not against the definition, or she, pronoun territory there. Um, Dr. Harrop claims that they're not against the definition, but he claims it's hate speech. Well, which is it? If you're not against the definition, then surely how can you extend that to being hate speech? In whatever context it is, if you're okay with the definition, or you say that you're okay with the definition, um, I think probably there wasn't a necessity to put up the billboard. I think it was probably a little bit provocative. If I can appreciate that transgender people would feel it's provocative, but at the same time, sometimes the truth is provocative, and it is the truth. And the vast consensus on the comment section was supporting Kellie Jay Keen-Mitchell. That's, that is the definition of a woman. I've always had issue with the fact that feelings, regarding this debate, that feelings matter more than facts. And personally, I do not consider a trans woman to be a biological woman. I just don't. If that makes me a hater, if that makes me transphobic, so be it. I don't relish that idea that I would be branded as such, but that's the situation that we've come to. And if it takes, feminists doing that and saying these things, and maybe it is necessary. Um, Regarding equality and human rights for trans people, I support their right to identify as they wish. I, completely condemn any sort of actual hate crimes against them, violent attacks and so on. That's appalling. But you cannot force people to believe that when someone chooses to have a gender reassignment operation, and there's complex reasons around it, there's issues like body dysphoria, um, and transgender people they tend to be very defensive on these sort of things. They were assigned the wrong gender at birth. That makes it sound like doctors have some sort of an agenda, or midwives, when a child is born, oh, this is a male, we assign him to be a male because he has a penis. I mean, it's almost taking biology itself to be offensive. I have huge sympathy for people who really do feel like they were born in the wrong body. It must be awful going through life, feeling that way. And broadly speaking, I believe that when people are adults, I'm against gender reassignment for children. The whole idea of transgender children to me is an absolute nonsense. But when people are adults, when they're old enough to decide themselves, I support their right to determine themselves whatever way they wish. What I don't support is bullying tactics of threatening to censor and ban anything that doesn't conform to their extremely narrow definition. I mean, the vast majority of people, aren't going to openly express hatred of transgender people, and nor should they. But by the same token, the vast majority of people are not going to, you just can't force people to say that someone born biologically female is going to ever be a man in the sense of what it is to be a man. And likewise, someone born with a penis can never be seen as a woman in the sense it is to be a woman. Now, where I do agree with feminists is that someone born a man cannot claim that they are a woman in the sense of being a biological woman. And they will say, oh, we're not saying it's biological, but there's many definitions of women. No, actually, there's one definition of woman, an adult human female. That's the definition of woman, just as man is an adult male human. Um, so, really, what this comes down to is terminology and facts being sidelined for feelings. That's really what it comes down to. Adrian Harrop, Dr. Adrian Harrop, came across as a very controlling individual, just his body language, and he seemed like the sort of person who goes out of his way to try to find things to ban. Um, I don't know much about this feminist activist. Like I say, I'm not a fan of feminism. I imagine she'll have lots of positions I disagree with. But on this issue, I think she's right. Um, Likewise, Germaine Greer has been in hot water with this. But it's just a crazy situation that women are being attacked as bigots for telling people what a woman is. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, if I say that a man is an adult human with a penis, does that mean I'm committing a hate crime against trans people? I mean, really, it's crazy. Um, and this is never ever going to get wider public support because people just, I've heard it compared to the American civil rights movement, but that is a perverse distortion because the civil rights movement was about millions of African American people campaigning for equal rights with white America. And that was an issue that impacted millions of people. Transgender people still form a very small minority of the population, less than a percent. That doesn't mean that they don't have human rights. It doesn't mean that they don't have a right to express their concerns and their feelings and all the rest of it. But what we have been seeing in recent years is bullying tactics by the transgender community, and I think it's time that that was challenged. I mean, people's jobs are being put on the line simply because they've used the wrong pronoun. You know, people have been threatened with arrest. People have had their names smeared as being horrible bigots for no other reason. I mean, look at the situation with Professor Jordan Peterson. There's a whole saga around that. Um, you know, if you are a trans woman, I don't hate you, I've nothing against you, but you cannot force me to believe that you are a woman. I will address you as her if you insist, you know, out of politeness, but I'm not going to believe that you are a woman in the same sense as my female friends, my sister, my mother. They are women, right? Um, I'll treat you with respect, I'll treat you with civility, but you cannot force me to believe that someone born with a penis will ever be a woman. It just won't happen. And that's what I don't like about this. An incredibly small minority of people trying to force their will on the majority. That's what we're seeing, and it's ridiculous.